Welcome to Waywut, your weekly verbal double take. This is a rabbit hole podcast where a couple of old guys do moderate to shallow dives into various topics, ranging from true crime, paranormal, sports, pop culture, or anything else that we find interesting. We drop episodes every Tuesday and on Fridays if we feel like it. You can follow us on Facebook, X, and TikTok. We appreciate you joining us. And now that we got all this self-promotion stuff out of the way, here we go. Hello. Welcome once again to another episode of Waywut. My name is Darrell. I will be the one guiding us on tonight's journey. And here I am with a man that underground mole people consider too pale. Jason. Like, Jesus Christ, man.
I actually agree with that one. I cannot tan on my legs for the life of me. They just stay white. I don't know why. I'm out in the sun all the time.
I've seen you get super duper red before, though.
Yeah, I do that very well. And I freckle. I freckle like a champ.
Oh, good. Congratulations on that talent.
Yeah.
So I would like to start today with a lazy man rant.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, I believe that I've done a good job establishing how lazy I am to our audience.
Yes.
If our shoddy editing doesn't give that away, if you go back and listen to other episodes, I went through this whole tirade emphasizing how I was too lazy to be evil. Like, it's too much work to be a cult leader or like a CEO that like stomps on everybody on your way to the top.
Uh-huh.
However, this time I'll be focusing on how I'm too lazy to do some good stuff too. Now, to start with, I admire people that are able to establish like a self-sustaining lifestyle. I get the draw of it. I mean, the less you depend on, typical sources for food, energy, and water, then the better off you are in case of a natural disaster or a pandemic or zombie apocalypse.
Don't depend on anybody.
Yeah, it's just all you. And not too long ago, I hung out with someone that is, developing this sort of lifestyle, and I've never felt lazier in my entire life looking at all the things that he's done. Because the one thing I really took from it is like being truly independent is a lot of freaking work.
Yeah, every day you're working to make that dollar. You're making, it's that hustle.
Not just that dollar, make that food,
that livelihood,
make that everything. Yeah.
It's that hustle.
Yeah, this guy, he already had like a great vegetable garden, and it was just like the start of it. I mean, he was going to, he already had plans on how expanding it. He had a rainwater collection system that gathers water to and then circulates it down to his garden.
Uh-huh.
He had a compost pile going. He was already prepping to, get chickens. And here I am where I don't even want to mow my own yard.
You don't even have a house plant.
No, we do.
Oh.
Yeah, my wife does. His name's Alvin the Aloe.
Oh, an aloe plant.
But I don't take care of it.
Yeah.
And Violet, a long time ago, she cut off the top of a pineapple, and that's been sitting in a Stanley cup now for like 5 months, and it has roots. She swears up and down she's going to grow a pineapple bush.
That's highly unlikely. But
well, yeah. Like,
keep trying.
Over the past handful of months, I've been bracing myself to chop down and dig up 3 small trees. And I mean, for like months, I've been prepping to do this. And he's already planning on planting 10 trees so he can harvest fruit. People that do this are awesome because, they work real jobs, then come home and essentially run a small farm.
Very true.
I mean, if I was to do this, how would I have time to watch movies, play video games, or work on this podcast if I'm tending to crops and livestock? It's just
not possible.
I don't see how I could fit it in my very busy life.
Yeah. And people wonder what they did before the internet and before TV. Well, this is what they did before all of that. They lived. They had to. It's chores constantly.
Well, I think I have a solution for my particular problem of becoming self-sustaining. And it's still going to be a lot of work, but since that's the case and it's a lot of work, I'm just going to have my kids do it. And I don't mean the farm work. I'm not a miracle worker. I can't get those kids to do a farm. It's like, take out the trash. No.
I do everything.
Exactly. What I plan on doing instead is I want to get one of my kids interested in robotics. If I can get one of my kids into mechanical and software engineering, then they can invent robots that do all the gardening and planning and livestock tending for me so that I could be self-sustaining without actually having to sustain myself.
I like it.
Yeah, I don't think it's me asking too much for one of my children to invent a way for me to, to not have to rely on outside sources for everyday living.
Yeah, it's quite freeing.
They owe me. Another way to accomplish a somewhat self-sufficient lifestyle is to get with other like-minded individuals and essentially make your own city. Like a hippie commune. Except I don't want to live around hippies. That's not a good idea. But the other option could be, I don't know, like a bunch of people in bunkers or houses that are underground. Where you get like so many of them together, it's almost like an underground city.
Oh.
Yeah. So after that buttery smooth segue, let's talk about underground cities.
Okay.
And I'm not talking about ancient cities that get dug up every now and then. I mean actual modern underground cities.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to do this the right way. We'll start off with an underground city that became an underground city for absolutely practical reasons. Coober Pedy is an opal mining town in central Australia. If you don't know anything about Central Australia, think about all the deserts in the Mad Max movies or any other post-apocalyptic hellscape you can think of, and it's just like that.
Sounds like a great place.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times, whenever they film stuff like that, they use it as a hellscape because in real life, it is a freaking hellscape. At night, it's often over 122 degrees Fahrenheit during the summer.
Well, it's a warm one.
Yeah. But then turn around and in the winter, it could dip down around 37 degrees Fahrenheit, just above freezing. So, I mean, it's hell.
It's kind of like Texas.
However, for the 60% of the 2,500 people that live in Coober Pedy, they live under 13 feet of rock in a pleasant 73 degrees Fahrenheit all year long.
Very nice.
Yeah. Coober Pedy's residents are able to do this because
excuse me.
I'm
sorry.
Gross. Keep your shit in your face.
I'm trying to.
Now, the residents are able to, do this because of the makeup of that particular environment. First off, everything there sits on this really porous sandstone. In a normal environment that's not a hellscape, this would not be good for creating underground structures because rain would, erode it and fill in those pores inside the sandstone with sediment. And it would cause it to be too dense, but it would also erode away other parts. It'd just be crap.
It'll mess it up.
Yeah. In this town's case, it's dry there. Super duper dry. Desert dry. So this isn't a problem for them. The other thing they would have to worry about is the moisture that come from people living there. Whether it's you taking showers, breathing out, letting out a wet fart or two.
Or 3.
Yeah. So what they do there to avoid all this is all the houses have these ventilation shafts that allow the excess moisture to just kind of flow out into the nasty dry desert. It's also, these ventilation shafts are there to make sure that they don't suffocate. So
how far down are they again?
13 feet.
Okay, that's pretty far.
Cooper Petty began as an opal mining town in 1915. The town was not officially named until 1920 when they got a post office, because you can't just have a post office for spot in the middle of the desert. They had to have a name. It is said that Cooper Petty is derived from the Kokatha language of the local indigenous people. The word Gubabidi
It's a good word.
means white man's holes. Yeah, so if you're a white guy in an Australian prison and an indigenous person says Gubabidi, just run.
Cover up. Yeah.
Just run.
Sit down.
Now, later in 1975, at least for the indigenous people, they ended up calling it something different. I mean, even though everything there calls it Cooper Petty, they call it Umuna, which means long life. So if you're in Australian prison and you hear an indigenous person say Umuna, you're probably pretty good. So just to help any Australian prisoners that are listening to our show, because I know we have listeners in Australia.
That's a pretty specific audience.
But I don't know if they're out on their own and free. I mean, it was a prison colony, so it's kind of 50-50 if they're in prison or not right now. So I say that. I'm just kidding. I've been to Australia. I loved Australia. It was amazing. I love you, Australians. Please keep listening. Now, currently, the town relies on tourism just as much as it does on mining for its economy. Because, seriously, who doesn't want to stay in an underground hotel and eat at underground restaurants? I do.
Yeah,
I mean, hell,
why not?
In downtown Dallas, they've got some tunnels that connect buildings, and anytime I ate at one of those restaurants in there, I was like, yeah, this is the coolest.
Yep. It tastes better because it's underground.
Exactly. Another cool thing about the town is that anytime someone wants to expand their home or a room, they just dig. It's like, our bedroom's too small.
Dig
So they'll just start digging. And so many of the houses have like these discarded piles of sands by their front door from when they've been expanding their home. So they'll sit there and dig, dump it out in the front yard, and they're done.
What if they dig into somebody else's house?
That is the downside, is that on occasion, people have accidentally dug into someone else's dugout home.
Oops, didn't mean to go into your living room.
Yeah, my bad. Oh, I didn't realize you were in the shower.
Or did I?
The risk, of that might be worth it, because on a couple of occasions, people have come across valuable opals while renovating.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, imagine that. You're sitting there digging to renovate and expand your home or room, and then you find something that's worth enough to pay for your renovation to your home. It's like, oh yeah, what about, I found this opal. Cool. I'm going to get the granite countertops now, Okay. Now, there have been a couple of collapses, which I imagine is always going to be a risk if you live underground. I mean, hell, it's a risk if you live in a regular house. Regular houses fall down. They blow up. They get, if you're a trailer, you get blown away in a hurricane or tornado.
Do they have house insurance?
I don't know. Probably. I mean, it is a civilized country, so imagine. Now, I have found a 4-bedroom, 1-bathroom underground dwelling in Cooper Petty for $141,000 US at the time that I was writing this script, which I'm not going to say when that was. Yeah. With housing prices the way they are in the US, it might be worth the risk of your house falling on you, especially if you're willing to relocate somewhere else with affordable housing. Just understand if you're in Australia, the internet sucks, and so is the phone service. So
I would
trade-offs.
imagine so. Yeah.
And you live out in the middle of the desert. On the plus side, I'm not aware of in all my reading about these underground dwellings, nothing was ever mentioned about giant spiders that will like eat your genitals or anything.
Well, that's good.
So, yeah. I mean, normally you got to worry about that when it comes to Australia's, plants, animals, bugs that will, eat your junk.
So they don't ever go outside, like above ground?
No, they do. Like only 60% of the people actually live underground.
Okay.
It's just, way more comfortable. I mean, it gets super duper hot there.
The only reason it's cool enough is because it's 13 feet below the surface.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. We're going to move on to another desert town, Matmata, Tunisia. Matmata sits on the edge of the Sahara Desert, so like Cooper Petty, it is pretty damn hot. Just pretty damn hot. Now, much like the desert in Australia, the ground is sandstone. But rather than digging out hills and big rocks the way that they do in Cooper Petty, the Matmata people dig these large circular holes in the sandstone. So just a big round hole in the ground. Once they dig their pit, they use that as the courtyard of their house. And then they carve out rooms on the edge of the hole. So all around on the walls of the holes, that's where their their various rooms are. And then you have essentially the pit is like your yard.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever want to see what one of these look like, watch the original Star Wars. They shot the Tatooine moisture farm scenes in Matmata, Tunisia. The Luke Skywalker's home is actually a hotel called City Driss. So it's one of those actual underground dwellings.
That's cool.
Yeah. The underground dwellings are called troglodytes, which is kind of like if you've ever read Jules Verne, The Time Machine. The troglodytes were like the people that, if I remember right, they're the ones that like lived underground and like snatched the beautiful people that lived above ground for food. If I remember right. If I'm wrong, please comment, correct me. I love it.
Who's gonna know that?
And I acknowledge whenever I'm wrong. Somebody corrects me, I'll be like, "Oh, dude, you're right." If you don't believe me, go check comments before. People have pointed out when I'm wrong.
All 3,466 comments.
I don't think we have that many.
No.
However, a lot of these dwellings have been abandoned since the 1960s and 70s. Before everyone started leaving, there were around 15,000 people in Matmata. Now it's only around 2,000 people. One of the reasons a lot of people left is they had a really, really bad flood in 1967. Oh. And living in a house that's made out of a big hole in the ground is not ideal in the event of a flood.
I can't imagine them having a big court.
Yeah, it destroyed several homes. I can't even think of some way to get around that. I mean, essentially it's like, all right, so first you dig a really big hole, but then you have to dig a really, really small hole that goes down until I don't know how deep that little tiny hole would have to be to actually be a drain for something like that. Even then, all the water running down into it would still fuck up everything else.
Yeah,
so.
Anything underground ain't going to work. Yeah. That's where water goes after it rains.
Yeah. Well, the other reason that its population is reduced so much is just modernization. Matmata is a rural village where the residents primarily make their money on olive farming with, some tourism that helps supplement and add to the income. After the original Star Wars movie, they saw a big spike in tourism. People want to stay at Luke Skywalker's house and stuff like that.
Of course, why not?
And then after Phantom Menace came out, the first of the prequels and a lot of that was on Tatooine. then, it kind of still sparked a lot of that back up again and got to see another spike. However, many people moved to the city or actually just had traditional houses built because they wanted opportunities outside of, growing olives and nerd tourism.
Mm-hmm.
And also not to live in a big hole in the ground in case it rained.
Well,
But,
probably the main reason.
It isn't just floods they have to worry about. There was a revolution in Tunisia in 2015, and tourists were some of their targets. That caused the tourism income stream to dry up a lot.
I would think so.
Yeah, you're not going to go somewhere where they're like, oh, they look at me as a potential target for violence. Yeah, I don't think I'll go there.
Nope.
Since then, though, it has settled down some over the past 9 years. So nerdy tourists are, slowly starting to make their way back to go, stay in a hole in the ground where Star Wars was filmed. There is a chance that they might see a slight population increase as tourism returns, but it's not too likely. It's not. It is not as stable as Cooper Petty. So I mean, eventually that underground city is gonna die out,
go away.
And this brings us to our final entry. Now, I'll admit that this one is a bit of a cheat because it was a planned underground city that didn't quite pan out.
Oh, okay.
But this is my episode, and I'll do what I want. If you don't like it, start your own podcast and write your own episode about underground cities, and don't use this one. So there.
Oh, there you go. Nanny, nanny, boo, boo.
Exactly. We are mature. Just south of the Red River lies a small Texas town called Ector.
Mm-hmm.
Its population is mainly composed of ranchers, teachers, and prison guards. It's, so you got a small Texas town, mostly blue collar workers, with some teachers thrown in for, just so they can add to their tooth count. It's like, oh yeah, Miss Smith over at school, she's got all her teeth. I can make that joke from Texas. Anyway, if you were to drive through Ector, Texas, on Texas Highway 56, eventually you would find a large ornate fountain sitting all by itself in the middle of a pasture. And for city folks, pastures like open grassland.
Yeah, there's no buildings there.
Yeah, there's no buildings, there's no trees. So you got this very large ornate fountain that's bone dry. It's got no water in it, and it's just sitting in the middle of this grassy field. The Four Horsemen Fountain marks the location that was meant to be the entrance to a place called Trident Lakes.
Where's this at again?
Ector, Texas, just south of the Red River.
Okay. Is that off of 35?
No.
Okay.
It's off the beaten path a bit.
Okay.
Now, I found an article that interviewed the Trident Lakes spokesperson. Back in 2017, they interviewed Richie Witt. Now, Jason, I'm sure you've heard that name before since he's a Dallas sports journalist that used to do radio and sports radio, and he's been writing here forever. So have you heard of Richie Witt?
No.
I want to say, I think he used to be on ESPN radio. I think you're more of a ticket listener.
I was a ticket guy. I'm a ticket guy.
Well, yeah, Richie Witt, he's the sports guy. Well, he eventually became the spokesperson for this real estate development. Now, in that article, he describes that there was this time at various cocktail parties in Dallas. Now, he just calls it cocktail parties in Dallas, but I'm going to add to this. It was cocktail parties in Dallas full of rich people. And at these cocktail parties, they began talking about their mutual alarm over the state of the world. Now, this is back in like 2016, 2015, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
This is pre-COVID. So all their concerns were mainly about like terrorism and just the general state of the world going downhill.
Mm-hmm.
This is also while Trump and Hillary were running for president. So half of them were scared of Trump winning, the other half was scared of Hillary winning, and both of them thought it was going to be the end of the world. Because I'm sure that's going to be the only election that ever happens in the US where everybody thinks it's going to be the end of the world because of the result.
No
Either way,
sarcasm hinted at all.
no, none at all. Either way, you got all these rich people and they're scared that the world's gone to hell. You get two men, Jim O'Connor and John Eckerd, who see this as an opportunity to give these worried rich people a place where they could feel safe whenever all the shit hits the fan. Now, I say it's these two because O'Connor, he was the CEO of Trident Lakes, and John Eckerd, he was the owner of the entire development and for quite a while was the company chairman. So it's these two guys that started. Now, foreshadowed. I'm going to do a little bit of foreshadowing here. In the article, I found it's around 2017. They interviewed the CEO O'Connor and Richie Witt, and they were asked if about the owner John Eckerd, if about his involvement. Now they said that he stepped down as chairman from Trident Lakes in 2016 after helping them purchase the land, and he only acted as an advisor after that. So very early on, they were trying to downplay his involvement. Foreshadowing. Now, back to the housing development. The idea was not to build those concrete or metal boxes that preppers build in their backyards. This was, was meant for the elite. And, we all know that the elite obviously deserve better.
Of course.
Yeah. The $400 million project was for 850 condominiums ranging from 1,084 to 3,974 square feet that would be 90% underground and would house more than 3,000 residents.
Okay.
Each
Doesn't seem like
condo,
very much money.
well, I mean, that's the cost of the project.
Hmm.
All right. And remember, this is back pre-inflation. This is in 2015 dollars. Now, each condo would have a terrace and a lake view, but in the event of a nuclear, chemical, or biological emergency, airlocks and blast doors would seal interior space, securing all the residents.
Okay.
Yeah, so you got these condos that just lock you down. If that was the case, they would have access to off-grid food, a closed water treatment plant, a Swedish water recirculation system, as well as solar and natural gas for power.
Wow.
Yeah.
The set up pretty good.
Yeah, it's not even done.
Would have been. Yeah.
The condos would be connected with a network of tunnels leading each condo to a community center that would have dry food storage, DNA vaults, so in case we needed to, repopulate or, have some good pre-mutated DNA, exercise rooms, a greenhouse, as well as meeting areas. The condos themselves would also have high-end appliances, water-saving showers, TV, Wi-Fi, and artificial skylights. So even though you're living underground, you could feel like you could see the sun.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah. Well, actually, it is.
And I mean it. I'm for real.
Yeah.
Being able to see pretend like you're seeing daylight, that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Even at working from home, just seeing that little glimpse of a window, that's all you need. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, furthermore, to also ensure their safety, the community would employ armed guards led by a former Navy SEAL.
Oh, okay.
which you would have to have, because if you're building a safe place in a, that a safe place for disaster situations, and you decide to put a giant tacky fountain in front of it, then all of the dirty poor people are going to know where this safe place is in these horrible situations, and they're going to try to bust in. So you have to have guards to stop all those damn dirty poor people.
Damn them trying to stay alive.
Damn poor people. Now, it wouldn't have just been the big fountain that would draw people's attention, because rich people need things to enjoy before, the whole world goes to shit and they have to lock themselves underground. They got to be able to entertain themselves. The neighborhood plans included 3 blue lagoons, a 5-star spa, a gun range, an 18-hole golf course, an equestrian center, helipads, a learning campus, and a 15-foot security wall.
Oh. You mean they're going to build a wall to keep people out?
Well, yeah.
Unheard of.
Well, no, but these are dirty, dirty, poor people. You have to keep them out. Now, there's more to come. So they would also add a hotel, because rich people wanted their
rich friends,
less fortunate rich friends to come visit. 4 miles of jogging trails, restaurants, and polo fields.
Polo?
They were in the plan. Those were involved later in the plans. After they developed all the other stuff, they wanted to make sure they had a polo field, because rich people love polo.
Good grief. Where's a bowling alley?
And then they were also considering, just depending on demand, and it just also seemed smart, in case, everything, it all went down and everybody had to move fast. They were exploring the option of adding a private runway.
Wow.
Being rich must be awesome.
Yeah, what a terrible problem to have. Where am I going to put my runway? Oh, that reminds me. I was doing a file today, and the people's house, this addition, sat next to a runway where it gave you access to directly to the runway, so you can fly and land your plane at your leisure.
Is it over by Denton?
It was, I don't exactly remember the city, but I think it was in Tarrant County somewhere.
I mean, I saw, wasn't that long ago, I saw like this like this small runway, and there's housing developments near it. And I think that was kind of one of those situations where people had access to it.
Yeah. Where you going, dear? I'm going to go to Arizona real quick. I'll be right back.
Yeah, but pick me up something while you're there. Just like, bring me a cactus. I don't
that's cool. That's fucking cool. That's really cool.
Now, they didn't want to completely leave all the poorer people out, because they still wanted some of their money. So what they decided to do was, they wanted to end up putting a bunch of hotels and restaurants and stuff right by it and near it, so that the poor people would be able to work there, spend their money there, and help them make more money, so that the rich people could have more amenities to like take care of themselves. So they planned on at least letting the poor people look at it and enjoy some of it. So they weren't completely evil, I guess. Now, speaking of poor people, it was kind of sad reading about these luxury condos from 7 years ago, with this super elite rich high prices ranging from $300,000 to over $2 million.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, like, whenever they were first doing this, I mean, like, you'd be able to buy like a nice house for outside of Dallas for in the 200s. And or apparently, if you just shell up an extra 300. I mean, if these guys would have not had this idea until it was closer to COVID, they could have tripled those prices easily.
Oh,
I mean, I look back at these prices now and I'm like, oh, God, housing prices were great, where even the super rich elite was attainable.
Very true. They're a little
Yeah.
ridiculous right now.
Well, I'm not. As I was saying earlier, where they weren't completely heartless to people, because I also need to give them credit for another thing. You know, the developers, uh, they were kind enough to also offer a 10% discount to all military, teachers, and civil servants. So, you know, it made it somewhat more attainable for some regular people. Because, and the only reason I could think of that they would do that is that even, you know, if everything locked down, they would still want some poorer people around to hire to do things that they didn't want to do while they were all locked in underground.
True. Still having a hierarchy.
Yeah. I mean, what's the point in being rich if everybody's rich?
Yep.
Now, this brings me to the next thing to note. You couldn't just be rich and buy one of these condos. Part of, part of joining their waiting list, which there was a waiting list, was a 5-page questionnaire. It required basic information like education level, marital status, income, career questions, but it also had fun questions like religion. Now, this one caught my eye a bit because I don't know, if you're asking somebody for their religion for a housing development, doesn't it seem like you might, I don't know, be looking for a way of weeding certain people out?
Discriminating is what you're trying to
What?
say.
I mean, I did want to say that, but I mean, because I mean, you can't necessarily say they were for discrimination purposes, but at the same time, I never found anything saying that in all the stuff that they were going to build in this neighborhood, they never mentioned that they were going to build a variety of like religious buildings or temples or nothing either. So, you know, they weren't like, oh, don't worry, we're going to have a synagogue and a church and a mosque. That
We're
was never
covered.
mentioned.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't really understand why the religion question was necessary, but then again, I don't know. It also asked about the respondent's temperament during times of extreme adversity. That's about as far as they went, and like, you know, trying to make sure that you're not going to crack up in
Yeah.
isolation, which,
Are you gonna flip your shit?
yeah, you would think they'd want, I don't know, psychological exams or something,
Mm-hmm.
but whatever. Now, once they opened everything up for orders, they ended up with a waiting list of over 1,000 people. Now, if
Wow.
you remember, there were only going to be, 850 condos. I mean, and that was even after the initial. I mean, when they initially came up with this idea, it was going to be 400 condos. Well, once, they got all this interest, that's when they beefed it up to the 850. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, this place sounds so great, Darrell. Why do you keep talking about it in the past tense? In July of 2018, Trident Lake filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, as well as the owner of the development, John Eckerd. He also filed for bankruptcy. This all occurred after John Eckerd was charged with conspiring to launder $200,000 through the Trident Lakes development that he believed to be cartel drug money. Yeah, the Fed set up a sting where on many different occasions, Eckerd would take bags of cash from them, then write them a check from one of his shell companies minus his fee. He pled guilty and was sentenced to 15 months in prison.
Dang.
So, yeah, so that kind of killed this underground dream world or whatever. Now, Richie Witt and Jim O'Connor, the CEO, were not part of any of the criminal dealings, and they were just a couple of businessmen that got tangled up with the wrong guy. But after that, the Trident Lakes went under. No building was ever done, and all that was ever created was this big fountain that has no water in it in the middle of a grassy field in nowhere, Texas.
Wow.
Yeah.
They didn't even start building anything underground.
Who?
The
Anyone else?
development, yeah, no, the development. They never started building
No,
anything underground.
they never got to where they were digging the hole or nothing.
Damn,
Didn't get that far.
that's
At least
amazing.
not that I'm aware of. Um, Now, this being said, I have a hard time believing that anybody that was serious about building an underground space for the rich and elite would put a giant luxurious fountain out there and advertise it all over the place. And now that it's gone under, I'm kind of wondering if that's just what they want us commoners to think. Yeah, I would not be surprised if there is a big complex of badass underground condos that are out there. And it is for the ultra rich and super elite, but it's not in the media, and there's not a big stupid fountain out about in front of it because they don't want regular poor people to know about it. Smart people know that you keep your apocalypse bunker or hideout secret, and the only time you let any information out about where your bunker is located is when you run out of meat. Because you need to draw in the gullible for meat. Got what I was saying?
Mhm.
Cannibalism. Uh,
Yep. Got to have a deterrent. You got to have a fake one out there to think that to get
you just don't
away with the real one.
advertise it. I mean, like, if I remember it, Post Malone, he has like, I forget the way he refers to it. He doesn't refer to it as a bunker, but it's something kind of like that. But he won't even say what state it's in
Yeah.
because
That's the
he
point, right?
wants,
Like you
yeah,
said.
you hide. All right, well, this will do it for my tale about modern day underground cities that we know about. I'd like to point that out because I'm on to you, rich people. Well, if Jason can spare some time from digging his bunker hole in his backyard, then maybe he'll take some time next week to tell us about some stuff that'll make us say, "Wait, what?" All right, Jason, go get to work on your bunker hole.
I got it. I'm ready.
Bye.
Later.
Thank you for joining us for Wait, What? If you would, tell your friends or your enemies that they can watch us on YouTube or Rumble. And if you don't want to see our face, or if they don't want to see our faces, you can listen to us on your preferred audio platform. That's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Pandora, you name it, we're probably on there. Please like, review, and comment on whatever platform you joined us on today. We'd appreciate that a ton. Again, just thank you for listening and watching. We hope you'll join us next time. We'll make you say, "Wait, what?"